Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers, where we have made it to the end of the GameCube library, looking at a few games for every letter that don't get talked about very often, if at all. This has been a fun series to make. The GameCube didn't have the biggest library out there, so it's kind of surprising at the amount of games that are overlooked. But I guess when you have Mario, Zelda, Samus and so on your system, it is hard for some of the others to get a look in. But still, I have a few letters and the numbers to go into in this video, so how about I shut up, you press that subscribe button, and we take a look at some games. First up is Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom, and I can't decide what's worse, the title or the unreadable font they use. Oh well. And as far as I can tell, this is the only game that actually starts with the letter Y, so we'll be cheating after this. It won't surprise you that I've never seen Yu-Gi-Oh! Honestly, its stupid name always put me off. There is a long convoluted story here that's far too in-depth for its own good, but basically there are two factions at war, and you have to stop the evil one from being evil, etc, etc. I have played a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh! Games before actually, and they're all card battling ones that didn't really interest me all that much. This one, however, is actually quite different, and I would say is probably the best one that I've played, in my opinion. The main game mode sees you and a couple of companion commanders put in battlefields. Each of your characters has a party of monsters, which are usually the cards, but they've gotten away from the most card nonsense here. You're put in 3D map arenas where your goal is to command your troops to visit the various locations on the map in order to take them over and add them to your kingdom. You start off in your base, and there's always an enemy castle which is your main objective for the stage. You'll need to send your troops there to fight the monsters and kill them all. But doing that immediately is never a good idea as they're pretty damn tough. What you'll want to do instead is send your parties to these smaller settlements first. Some of these are empty and you can just rock up and take control. This will mean they act as watchtowers or waypoints for you to fortify. The enemy will also be sending out their own parties to take control of these as well, so you want to make sure you get there first. There's also towns that are just neutral. Get there and you can rule them. This gives you access to the town's shops and services like healers, and you can send any wounded troops to these locations to heal up. Once you've done as much of that as you can, then you want to start heading towards the enemy castle. Of course, you need to watch for any bad guy parties that are also on the map along the way to fight them. As well as that, you get random battles against various wildlife and monsters. It's kind of like a strategy game and an RPG, but it's not a strategy RPG. When you get into a battle, the game switches to basic RPG menu systems. It's turn-based and you and the enemy have up to 3 characters in your party. You take it in turns to choose to defend, attack, use magic or items and that sort of thing. But I will say that I didn't really understand a lot of what was going on in the battles. Sometimes I'd get 3 or 4 attacks in a row, sometimes the enemy would have 2 goes and things like that. I didn't really get why the order of things kept changing and I never knew who was going to attack and when. I'm sure there's a reason that I was either told or fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! Would understand, but not me. Also, battles just sort of end after a few turns, and there were times where I killed 2 out of 3 of the enemies on screen and they didn't kill a single one of mine, and I still somehow lost the battle according to the game. Why? Now, I know there will be a reason for this, and I'm actually quite intrigued to find out as to what it was, as at first I wasn't really enjoying that, but when I did start to slowly piece things together, I actually got quite into it. The graphics are okay, but nothing special. The models look decent enough, and the cutscenes are just 2D slideshows, but the idea of taking control of locations to boost your troops and leveling up in the battles was pretty fun. If you like this sort of thing, give it a go, but I'm pretty sure it won't be for everyone. Next up is a game I've had to cheat with, so I've just got some random games that have a Y in them for the next few, so here is SpyHunter. This is a 3D update of the classic 2D arcade game that was very popular at the time. The story goes that you're a spy, and you're out to stop an evil organisation that you have reason to believe are developing chemical weapons for nefarious reasons, and on top of that you think the main bad guy is the same one from the arcade game. Gasp. So you get in your funky car and set out across a load of missions where you need to blow stuff up, drive through gates, stick trackers onto suspicious things and collect glowing things. The actual gameplay here is actually very simple, but it can be very tricky. Each of the missions is essentially just a straight road where you have to just get to the end. It's kind of like Crash Bandicoot but in a car. It's not literally just a straight road though, as there are multiple paths you can take and a ton of hidden areas that you'll need to discover by blowing up walls and things to open them up. You can also turn around whenever you want to, and you can go back and anywhere on the level as long as you don't run out of time. Each level gives you a number of objectives to complete within the time limit. These basically always involve blowing things up. Sometimes just one big thing, other times lots of smaller things. You've got sub-objectives as well, which are pretty much the same on every level. Don't kill civilians, which is fair enough, placing trackers on boats that appear at various points within the level but don't tend to hang around for too long, and to collect some spy satellite things, which are these big glowing balls. You'll usually need to find these spy satellites in hidden areas by going off ramps or blowing up walls to find the hidden doors. They can actually be quite hard to find. What's nice is that most of the objectives are colour coded, so you know what to do. If something has a red reticle on it, you want to blow it up. If it's orange, you need to put a tracker on it, and so on. If it's shooting at you, but doesn't have a reticle, just blow it up, it's a bad guy. Your vehicle is pretty well equipped as well. It's got machine guns with unlimited ammo, as well as some powerful missiles that will run out if you go too crazy. You also have boost that recharges over time. Completing missions unlocks new weapons and gadgets like oil slicks and mines for anything chasing you, as well as an invisibility cloak for a bit of stealth. These are all quite fun to use. What's also cool is that your vehicle will transform. 1 minute you're in a funky car, but if you go into water it changes into a boat form, and if you lose too much health then it will change into a motorbike which is weaker but more nimble and harder to hit, which is a nice touch. There's these big trucks in the stages that will open up when you get close to them. Drive up into the back of them and you'll repair your vehicle and also replenish the ammo for your weapons if you need it. To progress in the game, you just need to complete a certain number of mission objectives which unlocks the next stage, kind of like the Tony Hawk games. This means you don't have to complete every objective on every level, but the more you beat, the more levels will open up. You'll also need to replay levels multiple times in order to find everything. Objectives stay complete, so you can literally just focus on one at a time if you want to, though once you're getting good at the game, you'll probably finish 2 or 3 in one go. The game looks decent enough. There are some very pixelated areas though, especially when you're in the water. I did read that this was originally going to be an N64 game, which would likely explain that. None of the environments will blow you away, but the vehicle models are pretty good. And also, it controls very well actually, and I really like the handling here. It's easy to pick up and play, and won't take long to get used to. I was actually surprised at how fun this game is. It's not deep or anything, but it's a faithful update to the classic arcade game that is worth trying out. The next game that has a Y in it is Def Jam Fight for New York, and boy am I glad to have the chance to talk about this one. This is the second Def Jam game, and this is a series that me and my friends played the hell out of in college. The Def Jam games feature all of your favourite rappers from the Def Jam music label, and Sean Paul, beating the living crap out of each other because they're all insecure man babies filled with toxic masculinity, and you and your gang want to be the toughest around so you can run New York City. Thankfully, it makes for a really fun game. In the story mode, you make your own character. You choose their look and basic moveset from a list of fighting styles. Then you head to the streets to make a name for yourself in a series of street fights. The fighting here is fast and pretty brutal, as well as being comically over the top at times. It works really damn well. It uses a sort of watered down version of the Aki N64 wrestling game, which means that it's easy to pick up and play, but sadly isn't as deep as those ones. You've got a punch and a kick button, and hammering on these lets you do a combo. You also have a grapple. Once you've grabbed an opponent, pressing different directions and either the punch or kick button will do a different attack, so there's quite a few things you can do. Holding the L button lets you do hard attacks, and you can also run and attack, and the idea is to put combos of all of the above together. You can go straight from combos of punching into grapples, and the game really makes it clear that you need to mix up your moves, otherwise your opponent will just block and counter pretty much everything you do. In fact, the opponents are pretty tough from the start. To win fights, you actually have to knock your opponent out or make them submit. To do this, you need to beat them to a pulp so their health is in the red. Then this is the danger zone. At this point you've got a few options. Depending on your moveset, it's a bit different. If you have a powerful enough punch or kick, you can simply just hit them with it and they'll be KO'd. Of course, these moves are slow and can be tough to land. Or you can do a hard grapple move, which will usually knock your opponent out as well. Or the most fun ways are to use your blazing moves. Fighting builds up a meter, and when it's full you just tap the C-stick in any direction to enter blazing mode. Then you just need to grab an opponent and press the C-stick in any direction. You can have 4 blazing moves equipped, one to each direction, and these moves are crazy finishers. They range from massive power bombs to crazy throws that literally throw your opponent 10 feet into the air and have them land on their head, to massive DDTs, chokeslams, swan dives and more. There's loads of moves to unlock, and you're probably going to want to try them all. As well as this, there's a load of environmental attacks which are really fun. You can throw your opponent into the crowd, who will either grab them or push them back into the fight, or sometimes they might hold onto them for you so you can get some hits in, or sometimes they might even help you out by smashing them in the head with a glass bottle or something like that. You can also use the environment as weapons, slamming your opponent's heads through lights, speakers or pool tables, as well as crushing their skulls against concrete walls. It's really fun to do this, and these can also be used as instant finishes if your opponent is in the danger zone. Winning fights earns you money and dev points. Money is used to buy new clothes or jewellery for your character. Dev points are used to level up your character and learn new moves. You can choose to put points into your attack power, speed, health, recovery and so on, or you can use them to buy some of the new moves that you've unlocked by defeating opponents. The choice is yours. There's a ton of characters here for you to unlock as well. There's real rappers like Method Man, Lil Kim, Ice-T, Exhibit, Ludacris, Busta Rhymes and even Snoop Dogg, who is also the final boss by the way. And you also get other celebrities like Henry Rollins, Carmen Electra, Danny Trejo and more. There's also circuit fighters, who are just generic characters made up for the game. You fight these on the circuits and leave the real rappers as the main bosses. In total, there's more than 60 fighters for you to unlock. And it goes without saying that the multiplayer here is just brilliant. Having 4 players competing at the same time to knock each other out with crazy moves and smashing heads into speakers is just so much fun. Or you can do what we did and just have a 3-on-1 handicap match so we can constantly just kick the crap out of Sean Paul. It all looks great as well. It's got a very EA art style for the time, which is kind of cartoony but serious, and it leads to some amazing animation and some very good cutscenes. It will take a few fights to get used to how this all works, but believe me, it's more than worth it. This is actually one of my favourite games on the system, and one that I highly recommend to anyone. Zapper is a 3D platform game that has a lot in common with arcade classic Frogger. You are Zapper, one wicked cricket. Your brother, a grub, has been taken away by a bird, which is annoying. The bird accidentally leaves behind a trail of eggs though, so you set out across 20 levels following the trail of eggs that's been left behind until you find your brother. Oh, and of course you'll need to crush all the eggs you find because you're an evil bastard. So it's a 3D platform game, but plays more like an arcade one. The camera is fixed and the levels are essentially made up of squares. Zapper will move 1 square at a time, and knowing this, you'll need to explore all the levels to destroy the 6 eggs that are hidden in them. Doing this will end the level. But there's plenty more to do. As you can imagine, the levels are full of obstacles and enemies. Normally you can only hop 1 square at a time, so if a gap is larger than that, you'll need to jump and hover with the A button. This lets you cover 2 squares. You also have to look out for what you're jumping on, as a lot of the scenery can disappear, move or crush you if you're not careful, and the game is purely one-hit deaths. You also need to plan ahead, and you really need to keep an eye on where you're going. There are enemies which come in the form of a range of other animals and insects. None of them really chase you or anything like that, instead they've just got patterns that they follow. There's no timer on the level, so it's a good idea to take it slow for the first few times you play a level so you can see what's coming up and check the route that enemies take so you can avoid them. You do have sort of an attack. You can zap things with your antenna. It doesn't kill most enemies though, only stunning them. You can also use the zap to destroy various boxes around the levels. These contain power-ups and extra lives as well as fireflies and sometimes even eggs. There's 100 fireflies on each level to collect for those that want to be completionists. But also, the fireflies do help with power-ups. There's certain boxes that require more powerful attacks to destroy, but to use more powerful attacks you need to have collected a certain number of fireflies on that level. It's an incentive to get them all, and there are times where it's required that you need to have a certain amount to progress. They are generally pretty easy to find though. There's also lots of hidden areas in the levels. These are normally in doorways or passages that can be easy to miss and contain more lives and fireflies. The levels do get a lot more complex as you play, with lots of moving platforms and different maze-like paths to take, and the variety is pretty good. Looks wise, it's pretty standard for a game like this, but I do like the cartoony graphics and it's pretty sharp. The controls are also decent and responsive, though it did take me a while to get used to moving square by square rather than moving like a regular 3D platform game. You also need to use the shoulder buttons to turn left and right on the spot, as pressing the D-pad or analog stick just makes you jump in the direction you press, but it doesn't take long to get used to. While it can get a little repetitive, this is a fun little platform game that's basically Frogger with a different character, but that's not really a bad thing. Fighting game time now with Zatch Mamodo Battles. This is a 3D fighter of sorts based on the anime, which I once again have never seen. There is a daft plot where every 1,000 years Mamodo children are sent to Earth along with a magic spellbook. Don't ask me what a Mamodo child is though. Each of these punk kids then seems to follow around whoever picks up their associated book, and they each have their own magical powers. For whatever reason, this means you have to go around fighting all of the other people that have the book so you can be the best Mamodo person. It's a strange premise, but actually the game turned out to be alright, if a little shallow. There's a few game modes. You get a story mode, arcade mode and multiplayer. As well as this, you can unlock some mini games as you play through the story. You'll want to start with the story here, as pretty much all of the other characters and arenas to fight in are locked until you've done their respective levels. The battles are quite fun. In story mode you get to choose to play as a few different characters, with more being unlocked as you play, and each one has their own set of fights that you've got to take part in. You control the little Mamodo character, though your human mate will always be in the fight as well. You'll need to run around a 3D arena, and you only have to worry about a few buttons. There's no complicated fighting mechanics or combos here. Instead you have a basic attack button and a special attack button. Simple. You can do a few combos though, and there's a handy dandy move list in the pause menu. They are simple enough, and each character has a handful of moves to learn. Sometimes your human friend will even do some attacking, which is cool. This works fine for the most part, but each character does play very similarly, and it was just a bit of a shame that there wasn't more in the way of variety. Usually characters have an offensive attack, as well as one that will stun enemies and one that lets you jump high into the air. Putting these together into one combo is pretty fun, even if it is a bit simple. There is a bit you can do though. Attacking builds up a special meter, and when this is full you'll just need to hold the L button to unleash your devastating special attack. These always look cool and have a nice cutscene to go along with them. What I really like is that if you do your attack at the same time as your opponent, at which point it becomes a button mashing battle where you need to hammer the A button more than your opponent, and whoever does it the best is the winner and their special move will connect. The game looks decent enough with some nice cartoony graphics, it's got some cool cell shading, and it does look very good with some nice animation. It's a very simple game with just a few buttons to worry about, and I can probably see that some people will be put off by its lack of depth, but for me it was a cool little unit game that was a good bit of fun, so if it looks good to you, then take a look. Here is Zoids Battle Legends. This is a 3D arena battle game based on the popular, but probably not popular enough, anime about massive mechs in the forms of dinosaurs and a whole bunch of other animals. In case you don't know, Zoids are basically just animal robots armed to the teeth with lasers and rockets, so of course the best thing to do with them is to fight. Here you get a story mode, arcade mode and some multiplayer options. No matter the mode, the gameplay is basically the same. You choose from a decent roster of Zoids, with a few more that can be unlocked. You've got wolf Zoids, turtle Zoids, lion Zoids, stingray Zoids, and even dinosaur ones like a T-Rex. Each Zoid has various stats in terms of speed, attack, defense, and so on. There's the usual mix of slow and strong, fast and weak, and everything in between. Each Zoid has its own weapons. You get ranged and melee. There's rockets, lasers, machine guns, grenades, and so on. You've got plenty of ammo for all your weapons, and some are even unlimited. But these ones have a cooldown, so you can't just spam attacks over and over for the most part. If you're close enough to an enemy, you'll want to use your melee attacks rather than your ranged weapon. These ones are pretty powerful but harder to connect with, as your opponent won't hang around for too long, and also the hit detection isn't that great. As you can see, it's all in a 3D arena, similar to games like Virtual On, and it works well. The story mode does give you more objective-based open levels, and these involve the usual things like blowing everyone else up or sometimes protecting things or people. It's that sort of thing. They really should have spent more time balancing these out though. Some missions are an absolute breeze, whereas others are incredibly easy to fail. There's one in particular that I failed on again and again, sometimes in less than a minute, and I really had no idea why. I'd just run around shooting the enemies, sometimes I'd immediately fail, sometimes I wouldn't, and eventually I just beat the mission. As far as I know, I wasn't doing anything different each time, so maybe I should have spent more time in the briefing room reading what I was actually meant to be doing. It is actually usually easy to keep track of what's going on here, thanks to your HUD and radar that you get, and controlling your Zoids is generally quite good, if a little clunky. You don't have any camera control though, which is kind of annoying. Instead, the C-stick here lets you dodge in the direction you push it in, which does actually come in handy, but most of the time I'd rather see what's going on around me. But no, tough luck, Buster. The game looks good with some really cool looking robot designs, and the animation is good as well. I really like this sort of game and it all plays smoothly. The gameplay isn't particularly deep though, with just the basic attacks and no real bells and whistles. It can still be a fun arena game though, with some awesome animal mechs if you like some robot on robot action. Number time, and here is 2002 FIFA World Cup Korea Japan. Yep, it's a football game based on the 2002 World Cup, and it's actually a pretty solid arcade game of football. There's not really a whole lot to say about this one, as it's football. You have two options for game modes: a friendly match, which is just a single match where you choose your team and who you want to play against, or you can take part in the World Cup, taking your country of choice through the group stages and hopefully all the way through to the finals. But yes, it's a decent enough game of football. Every country is represented here as far as I can tell, each with their own stats and world rankings. So you choose your teams and off you go to play some football. I actually really like football games and tend to always have one or two for the systems I own. I didn't own this one though, I had FIFA 2003, which is another fun game. But this World Cup game is more arcade-like, being very easy to pick up and play, which is nice. The controls are simple and responsive, and it's easy to pass, shoot and place a devastating through ball if you need to. Being as it's more arcade-like, you also get some wacky things, like players that have flames bursting out of them as they run, or some of the players with the more powerful kicks have fireballs coming off of the ball when they kick it. I really wasn't expecting this, but it was nice to see a FIFA game not taking itself too seriously. You can also mess around with the options, which can be fun while playing multiplayer. You can turn fouls, offsides and yellow and red cards off if you want to. This makes the games crazy, and you can go in as violently as you want, which is always fun. Graphics wise, it's fine. Most of the players of the more well-known countries are modelled as accurately as they could be for the time, though not every player has their likeness in the game. And it all runs smoothly and plays well enough as well. And really, what else do you need to know? It's a football game and a fun one. Play it if you like them. The last racing game of the series now with 4x4 Evo 2. It's a racing game packed with off-road trucks that I'm sure real men just love. I am not a real man, so I just like them as a friend. So yeah, it's a budget racing game. You get quite a large selection of 4x4 trucks to race as, all of which appear to be licensed if you're into that. However, in most modes, the vehicle selection menu is pretty terrible, as it's just text, so unless you know what the car is before you choose it, you won't have a clue what it even looks like until you start the race. You can choose from single races or championships here, as well as a few multiplayer options. You also get time trial and even a free roam mode, which is actually pretty cool, and you basically get to just drive around an open environment. That's nice. But if you want to unlock all the tracks and vehicles, then you'll want to do the championship modes, which see you taking part in a series of races that of course you want to win. You'll then earn enough money to get new cars and find new places to drive around in. For the most part, the courses are what you'd expect. Brown environments covered in mud with precarious twists and turns all over the place. There is a pretty good selection of them. There's forests, towns, canyons, deserts, sand dunes and so on, and they're all quite long. Each race is checkpoint based, so you'll need to make sure you don't miss any of them, and it can be hard to catch up if you do miss them and have to turn around. You do also have a button that lets you reset back a little way if you do miss something, or you manage to flip your truck. This does help stop annoying fannying around trying to go the right way, but it puts you back quite far. The computer opponents are also quite tough. There's a variety of AI in them, and some crash into everything in sight, whereas others run a pretty perfect race. Though I was able to win as long as I wasn't crashing into everything myself, so I do think it's fair. As is the case with almost every racing game, you will want to learn some of the tracks before you're able to win consistently. The physics here are a little bit wonky though, and the handling on some of the vehicles is pretty floaty and makes it easy to flip your car. As well as this, the collision detection is pretty awful. If you hit another car, you can sometimes get stuck in them, or you bounce jerkily away from them rather than in a realistic way. And there were times where the other drivers would literally clip straight through me and appear in front of me. This happened a few times at the very start of some races, which looks kind of funny and is also kind of annoying. The game looks alright, it's clearly a budget title, so it's what you'd expect. Lots of grey and brown with low resolution textures. The car models are fine but nothing special, and they don't have the kind of detail you kind of expect from racing games of this generation. But still, the game is fine, it's perfectly playable, and it was fun for the most part. It's one that would be better experienced with friends. And finally, for this entire series, here is 007 James Bond, From Russia with Love. Now, I've said it a few times already, but as far as I'm concerned, there are no bad Bond games on the GameCube. But this is the only one that I hadn't played before, so I thought I'd give it a go. Based on the classic movie, you play as Sean Connery's James Bond, who has to go to Russia to get some device that bad people want to do bad things. You know, spy stuff. This takes you to a few places around the world where you're put into some quite large levels that are actually quite linear, and you've got a bunch of objectives within them to complete. It's all done as a third-person action game with some vehicles thrown in for good measure. The mission objectives are pretty much exactly what you'd expect, so you'll be sneaking around enemy bases, collecting intel, blowing things up, killing people, shagging women, and so on. It's all pretty standard, but in a good way if you know what I mean. Bond has a few weapons, including his classic PPK, and you get a range of machine guns, shotguns, grenades, and so on. You even get a jetpack a few times in the game, which is always fun. There's an emphasis here on cover-based shooting, though usually I didn't bother to do this, to be honest. You can sidle up to any flat surfaces, which is good for letting you get the drop on enemies and letting you pop out when it's safe to do so and take a few shots. The game does have a generous lock-on mechanic, which I'm actually quite fond of. When you're locked onto someone, you can actually then press the B button and move the analog stick for more precise shots. This lets you specifically target parts of the enemy for nice headshots, or maybe you want to shoot the grenade on the belt or the radio in their pocket so they can't call for backup. These are really nice little touches that actually really help make it a bit more fun. You also have melee attacks that you can do when you're up close to an enemy. These earn you points to upgrade your weapons, as does finding intel in the levels, so it's worth punching people in the face as often as you can. And the game carried over some of my favourite things from the other Bond games, which are the Bond moments. These are specific, often hidden things you can do in levels that only someone as cunning as Bond would do. This could be shooting an explosive canister to kill loads of enemies, or finding hidden routes or traps to stop them. These are fun to find and also get you upgrade points. Something that's a bit of a double-edged sword here is that Sean Connery actually recorded new dialogue for the game. For Bond anyway, not for the other characters. That would be silly. However, his performance isn't really the greatest, and you can definitely tell that he was an old man when recording these lines, and they don't quite match the young Bond model that we have in the game. But still, I really love the fact that they got him to do it. Graphics-wise, it looks really good. The character models are excellent, and they really nailed his mannerisms perfectly, even down to the way he stands while holding his gun is just right. Playing through the key scenes of the movie is fun, and of course they've taken a lot of liberties to make things a lot more action-packed, and there's basically a constant gunfight in every level. You also have a few driving stages thrown in, and these are spaced out nicely and do a great job of breaking up the action with some really good car controls. Overall, this is a very fun game that's basically all action, but does do a great job of capturing the essence of the movie and has plenty of levels to keep you occupied with. Definitely worth a playthrough. So there you go, more GameCube games that you may have overlooked. As always, let me know what your favourites are and what other games could have been included. I tried not to have ones that are featured in the PS2 Hidden Gem series, which is why some obvious ones are missing. Anyway, I want to say a big thank you to everyone that gave me suggestions for games to play, and for anyone who's just watching this video. I really appreciate it, and of course, don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, on screen now, you can see where you can follow me, so why not do so? I got loads of great content for everyone to enjoy. And now, all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.